Welcome to this session, which is a basic and informative session on the global regulatory affairs. I need to welcome each one of you. For those who don't know me, I'm Dr. Ermias Tarafa, a pharmacologist and co-founder and lead trainer for AGLS. Before we start our webinar, I'll take a few minutes just to share with you what we are doing as AGLS. I'll take you through our website where you can also have time later on to go and interact with the same website. So at AGLS, we focus on building capacity. We are CPD accredited institution by the Pharmacy and Poison Board, and a number of our courses are also accredited by FIP. And also, we are in process of also accreditation with the American, the ACPE. So among the things we do, I just focus on our short course programs. Most of you have attended our short course programs. You know how rigorous our trainings are, where usually our trainings are taught by or facilitated by very senior and expert facilitators, which you can browse on the website, some of our current and past facilitators. So we believe in expertise. We believe in giving very high quality, continuing professional development trainings, not beyond CPDs. So that's why the way we structured our trainings, they are some say they are very academic, but they are really well structured. And maybe I will show later on how we approach a training. But these are some of the short course trainings we undertook the last year. One of our flagship training program is the diabetes and hypertension management training, the vaccinology training, which we conducted with the Ministry of Health last year, which was one of the successful training, and also got accreditation by the FIP. Clinical research method is the other one. I believe I've seen most of you had attended the health supply chain management is another flagship program. Soon we'll be having MTM training. The veterinary pharmacy training is also another one. I hope today we'll have Dr. Maureen. Maybe she'll say a little bit. One of the trainer also in this regulatory pharmacy course, and she was among the facilitators in vet pharmacy. The certified humanitarian medical supply chain, this is our new course, and which we'll have another webinar for that one, and also the regulatory affairs, and I'll talk about it later on. And all our trainings, we really have our own learning management system where participants will get the opportunity to interact with the facilitators and to go through the training in a more deeper way, where they will get the PowerPoint, the recorded videos, publications, articles, and so forth, which is also accessed on their mobile app. So in short, those are some of the things we do in AGLS on top of supporting our research, supporting governments in policy, leadership, and also in academic mentorship. So saying that, I would like to bring the discussion to today's session, today's main agenda, which is a webinar on global regulatory affairs. This is a CPD accredited event. So pharmacists and pharmtechs, I encourage you, you can subscribe to the event on the PPB portal, and we'll be able to share your CPD tokens as we move on. This is a two-session webinar, 2 Fridays, today and the next week, where in the first session today, we'll focus on global regulatory affairs and career opportunities. We'll have 3 topics to raise, and we have 3 speakers, experienced speakers. Hope they will introduce themselves as they start their presentation. on what they are doing for, I hope for most, maybe Dr. Eva Miner, one of a consultant regulatory pharmacist, Dr. Simon, company pharmacist at Lab and Allied, an industrial pharmacist too, and also we have Dr. Bina, and each of them will share their experience, their insight, what this global, when we talk of that global nature, what is that global regulatory affairs? And the next week, we'll talk about the regulatory pathway and industry-based experience, where we'll talk of these 3 points with other speakers. So that is today's agenda, and the next part, when it comes to our proposed global regulatory affairs short course, I will talk later on after the presentation for maybe few minutes. Allow me at this point to invite, I don't know if we have Dr. Eva Miner, to share her thought and experience on the global regulatory affairs, the overview of the regulatory requirements across different regions. How is this regulatory space? Yeah, and I really wish if Dr. Eva herself introduces herself in a well detailed, and I'm purely academician. I'm not good in introducing these things. Doctor, are you there? I can see her.
Yes, I'm here. Let me put on my video for a short time. Yes. Sorry. I think it's a level of where my video is. Okay, let me just put it off. Okay, my name is Dr. Eva Miner. I am just trying to figure out how to get my video started. I don't know if from that level, because I'm using 2 machines. Sorry, let me change the direction of my video because it's facing. Okay, let's see if it will change. Yes. Yeah, better. Okay, my name is Dr. Eva Miner, a regulatory affairs consultant. I have been in this field for almost 20 years, and I specialize in different aspects of regulatory affairs. That is in the pharmaceutical regulatory affairs, for human products, that's both the conventional products and the veterinary products. I also do biologics. I do the whole range of regulatory affairs. I cover sub-Saharan Africa. So I do for different countries in terms of regulatory aspects. I also specialize in medical devices and generally all health technologies. I have my background is in regulatory. That's my master's in project planning, regulatory affairs, and in strategic leadership. So that is my background. I run my own consultancy currently, and now involved training together with Dr. here. So yeah, that is a small introduction of myself, and maybe you let me know when you can get into the training. Thanks.
And alumni of your end, Prof?
Yes, alumni of University of Nairobi. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. So you let me know when I can start the training. So I can share
you can just start. You can continue with that one. That is great, Doctor.
Okay. You let me know once you can see my.
Yeah, it's quite very visible. Yeah.
Yes. So let me just want to make it a full screen. Are you able to see my? Yeah. Okay. So for me, I'll just do a brief overview of of the global regulatory affairs. For my part, I will start with introduction to pharmaceutical regulation. The objectives of this module will mainly cover, defining the role of supranational and national medicines authority, and explaining the harmonization processes. If you look at this, let me put it on slide mode so that we can be able to see this properly.
On the top slideshow, yeah.
Slideshow, yeah. Let me just start from the beginning. I think that one will be better. Yeah, so the role of supranational and international and national medicines authority. So the supranational organizations are the overarching organizations. These are international organization or union where member states transcend national boundaries or interests to share in decision making and vote on issues pertaining to the wider grouping. An example of this, the one that we follow mostly is WHO. So we take a lot of our guidelines and a lot of our regulatory aspects, we borrow a lot from WHO. Then the second one is on international bodies. Now, this one is like the ICH, which is the International Conference on Harmonization. It achieves harmonization through developing guidelines and technical requirements for the development, approval, safety monitoring of medicine. So the whole life cycle from when you do the drug development to the approval processes. This is where the guidelines come in terms of the product registration, all the way to life cycle maintenance of the product and up to post-marketing surveillance. So they cover the whole aspect of drug regulatory affairs, and they are the ones who develop guidelines that help to guide the processes. So I've just put a link to the ICH home just to cover what ICH do. The other one is on strict regulatory authorities. These are authority to fall under the definition of SRA. A regulatory authority must be a member of the ICH. That's being the European Commission, the US FDA, Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare of Japan, is also represented by the Pharmaceuticals and Medical Devices Agency. So one, you have to be a member of ICH. So those are the 3 ICH members. So either you've been part of EMA, FDA, or MOH Japan, or you're an ICH observer, that is being in the European Free Trade Association area. And this is usually represented by Swissmedic and Health Canada. So they also fall under this category. The third category for SRA is a regulatory authority associated with an ICH member through a legally binding mutual recognition agreement, including Australia, Iceland. That one will, this other one will give me a bit of a headache to pronounce. Sorry, apologies for that. I think it's called Liechtenstein. That one I am not able to pronounce, and Norway. So these are the countries that are considered to be strict regulatory authorities. And it is important to note this because when we go through the reliance routes, these are the ones that are considered as the authorities. If your product has passed through and has gotten approval, both GMP and product registration, in these strict regulatory authorities, they're the ones now who are able to fall. You can now be able to submit your product under the reliance route. Another route which we can use is the one for the WHO listed authorities. These are where you have what you call the ML3, where we fall, where we're always trying to get to the ML3 level. These are global benchmarking tool, the foundation for classifying regulatory systems according to maturity levels. The regulatory authorities that have attained an overall maturity level 3 so far are TMDA. We have NAFDAC for Nigeria. We have EDA, that's the Egyptian Drug Authority. We have Ghana, FDA. We have SAPRA, South Africa. We have ARP in Senegal. We have RFDA, that is in Rwanda, and MCAS in Zimbabwe. These are the countries in Africa so far that have been able to attain the maturity level 3 status under the classification of WLA countries. The next one is on harmonization procedures. So these countries, usually under the SRA and WHO, the WLA, you will find a lot of the reliance, how the reliance guidelines or the reliance pathways will use these two classifications. Either it's from an SRA authority or a WLA listed country. Harmonization procedures would include, like we have the EAC, MRH, that is East African Medicines Regulatory Harmonization. Member countries to this are Tanzania, including Zanzibar, Kenya, Rwanda, Burundi, Uganda, and South Sudan. South Sudan is still pending. They have not started effecting the EAC MRH procedures. Then we have the Intergovernmental IGAD, that is Intergovernmental Authority on Development. The member states are Djibouti, Ethiopia, Kenya, Somalia, South Sudan also falls under there, Sudan and Uganda. Then we have the West African Medicines Regulatory Harmonization. This is also, this one involves 15 countries, ECOWAS countries. So that's also another route harmonization initiative that's in place. And then now we have the SADC MRH, that is a South African Development Community Medicines Regulatory Harmonization Initiative. Now through the Zazibona procedure, and these are countries like Zambia, Zimbabwe, Botswana, Namibia, Tanzania, DRC, Malawi, Mozambique, and South Africa. Then we have now the big one that has come, that is the African Medicines Regulatory Harmonization. Still an ongoing process. There are countries, I'm not sure, that one I will check. I don't know how many have signed so far. I think there are around 50 countries, but I'll confirm on that number. We have what you call the continental agencies. So continental agencies are like EMA, that is in the European Medicines Agency, and EMA involves both the EU, European Economic Area, countries that fall within the European Economic Areas. And then now you have AMA, which is the African Medicines Agency, which falls under the NEPAD initiative. We'll get more into this as we discuss the different routes. These routes are recognized even here in Kenya by the PPB, and you can submit, you can make your submissions using these different harmonization initiatives. Then we have another aspect called the mutual recognition procedure. MRP allows applicants to apply simultaneously for licenses in multiple countries. The same dossier format is submitted to all NMRAs for concerned countries. But remember, even as we say it's the same format, Module 1 usually differs as per the different requirements for the different countries. One procedure with one set of questions is agreed on by the reference country, and then the concerned country is the other country. So you must pick a reference country where you take the dossier, and then the other concerned countries they come up with the queries based on a specific timeline. Harmonized release criteria for marketing activities. For harmonized release criteria marketing activities, we have the East African MRH procedure and the EU mutual recognition procedure that covers this. For application review pathways, as we had discussed, we have in Kenya, these are the ones that are recognized so far. We have full review. I want to take you back, sorry, I just skipped something. For the mutual recognition procedure, so far, the countries, especially within East Africa, we do not have these agreements in place. But in terms like for the vet medicines, as we also handle that, you will find they do have this procedure in place. And we can be able to submit documents to the different authorities using the MRP procedure. Application review pathways. You have the full review of the dossiers if it does not fall under reliance, any of these routes. So you have the full review, you have priority review. These are for medicines that fall under essential medicines list. Then also public medicines used for public health interest and also for local applications, they will fall under priority review. You have the reliance procedure, where the SRA approved products would fall under. Then you have the abridged or verification process, that is the WHO CRP assessments. And then now you have the joint assessments, where now the harmonization initiatives would come in. It is important to understand the different pathways for which you can do the application of the products. One of the advantages of using any of these routes is to avoid duplication of work by different regulatory authorities. If a product has been reviewed by a stringent regulatory authority, then you can go through an abridged process or abbreviated process in order to have more medicines being available in the market, but still ensuring the quality aspect of the medicines across the region. So that is just a brief of what my presentation will entail when we get into it. This is just the first part, just understanding how all this came about in terms of the regulations. Why do we follow these regulations? Why was it necessary to come up with a common document that can be submitted to the different regulatory authorities to ensure faster turnaround times in terms of regulation, but especially to ensure compliance from the different stakeholders, so that even at the end of the day, it avoids, even for the evaluators, it avoids a lot of duplication of work. So it is to improve the efficiency of the processes, both by the regulator, but also by the industry players. Let me know if there are any questions. That was just a brief summary of what to expect when we start getting into the actual module on the introduction. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doc. That was really amazing, and this was what we've been saying as a big thing that missed on pre-service education in the pharmacy program, an undergraduate program, and that is where now I'm really seeing the relevance of such capacity building training, how it can play a role in structured learning. I'm a strong believer of structured learning, and I can't wait to be a good student in your upcoming classes, Dr. Thank you for that great presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, colleagues, if you have any question, feel free to drop it in the chat. We have different speakers. Dr. Eva will be one of our facilitators for our upcoming long global regulatory affairs short course training. I will talk about that training. But briefly, I'll invite Dr. Nelson Odhiambo to say just hi. I've seen him. He's also another very senior facilitator, senior pharmacist in this space. Doctor, are you there? I don't know if you are able to say hi to the crowd.
Yes, Doctor. I'm there, Dr. Hermias.
Thank you, Doc. Maybe you can introduce yourself. You can say hi. I know people will meet you when they join the training, and I'll explain later on where you come in the training. Yes, please.
Yeah. When I see list of trainers, I feel very happy. When I see Dr. Eva Maina, Simon Muigai, these are guys we have been in the industry for quite a lot of years. And I feel elated that we are going to have a very robust training program. First of all, my names are Dr. Nelson Odhiambo. I am a pharmacist by training. An alumni of University of Nairobi.
Wow.
And further to that, I have angled towards management and leadership through postgraduate and doctoral programs. So I think I look forward to a very interactive session ahead, as we had talked earlier. But just to mention something as a preview is that the significance of regulatory affairs in the centrality of business growth and business objectives cannot be underscored, because you see that all organizations right nowadays, they set certain strategic goals for market penetration, for marketing authorization. Which markets do they want to place which products? So it is very imperative for them to understand the regulatory framework and the regulatory landscape with respect to the guidelines, the rules that govern specific types of molecules, and more so in the emerging issues that are such as bioequivalent studies that now require that understanding drugs at molecular level be understood and the regulatory frameworks be implemented accordingly. I'm just talking, maybe if we are talking about, if I want to register a product, for example, in the Francophone West Africa, it's just good that at a strategic level, the leadership of pharmaceutical firm need to understand the regulatory framework in that place. They need to understand the labeling guidelines that are applicable. Then operationalize this now from the strategic thinking of the organization where they want to place their markets, and then break it down to the operational level. What kind of quality control techniques do I implement in order to be able to have the input into the CTD format that Dr. Eva has just talked about? You really have to break it down from strategic point all to the operational level. Otherwise, you will get into surprises at a point when you want to, say, submit your dossiers in EMEA controlled countries. Then you are told that in one of the characteristics of the API, you have to give a profile on the, for example, related substances profile or something like that. Yet you did not develop this, or the organization did not develop the capacities at a strategic level to be able to provide this information. So this, you find that a lot of products are applied for, but again, they don't see the light of the day in terms of registration or marketing authorization. So I think in this kind of engagement, we are going to do proper exposure and break it down, the regulatory thinking at the various levels of leadership, strategic leadership, operational leadership, and even the tactical leadership, which we are going to talk about, and look at now things, how they are handled separately at the in various therapeutic categories. There is molecular categories, and even BCS classification, because that goes very much into the type of the dossier you will have to formulate. So we would like that, because I've been in the industry and I know what the industry needs. I think we will be able to unpack some of the salient strategies that should be taken at the various stages of the product life cycle that Eva was referring to. What kind of inputs at a strategic thinking level do I put in my NPD, product development level? And then I move it to how do I scale it up? How do I put it in now production operations? What critical process parameters I need to monitor that will, at the end of the day, enter into the regulatory tool in CTD format. And of course, these vary from one stringent regulatory authority to another. If you are looking at maybe the FDA guidelines, you see the focus they have put into the compliance related to 21 CFR Part 11 on matters of data integrity. So we are going to engage a great deal. I didn't have a prepared presentation. Actually, I'm talking to you when I'm on the road, but I'm very excited to be part of the team, and we look forward to work together, Dr. Ebias. Thank you so much, and I say hello and a good evening to the rest of the team. Hello?
I was muted. Thank you. Thank you very much, Doc. That was really insightful. And
Yes.
I believe next week also we'll have a session again. If people have a question, you might get time also to respond. But I'm so privileged and humbled that you are part of the training team, and that wealth of experience will make a real difference to the training. At this
Yeah.
point, yeah, that
Yeah.
is very amazing.
You maybe just to mention that
Mm.
I also do have a bit of a strategic advantage that I've audited literally
Yes.
most of the factories, manufacturing factories in Kenya and beyond. And we will see how GMP interacts and its significance in how what goes into the input in the registration process. And this is very, very crucial for the success of the regulatory. Even much of the, if you now categorize countries in terms of their compliance to ML3, Kenya is at ML1. Why are they at ML1? What kind of the industry dynamics are contributing to this? So we are going to look at all those things in detail.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Doc, for that.
Great.
At this point, colleagues, let me invite Dr. Simon Mungai to take us on a point with the title, Why Regulatory Affairs Matter. Just briefly, I'll give him a chance to talk. And first, to introduce himself. We have worked with Dr. Simon Mungai in different avenues, especially when we consult and guide the Pharmacy and Poison Board, the Ministry of Health, from the review of the BFARM curriculum to development of the good pharmacy practice guideline. Dr. Simon, I hand over the session to you. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ermias, and thank you again for making this very insightful presentation on regulatory affairs possible today. And I'm glad to see some of the colleagues here we've worked with and who we're in industry with doing this work of regulatory and quality assurance and industrial pharmacy on day-to-day basis. So mine will be a very brief presentation just on why regulatory affairs. And I have a few slides which I'll go through quickly. I think I've got about 10 minutes. Can allow me to share the screen.
You can share, Doc, yeah. Mm.
Okay. So you can see the shared screen?
Yes, Doc.
Okay, thank you. Yes, so the title is Why Regulatory Affairs Matter, the Role of Regulatory Professionals in Ensuring Drug Safety, Efficacy, and Compliance. And as Dr. Nelson has said, regulatory professionals are really at the core of pharmaceutical operations because they tie together all the aspects of the operations and the pharmaceutical industry and medical devices industry being a highly regulated one. Without this, nothing else would happen. So, starting with the importance of regulatory affairs, it cannot be overstated. Like again, Dr. Nelson has said, Eva has introduced what this is all about, but just to recap, from an industry perspective, regulatory affairs is the intersection of science, law, public health, and it ensures that pharmaceutical products and devices comply with regulatory requirements for safety, efficacy, and quality across their whole life cycle. Regulatory professionals are the guardians of this process, ensuring that the industry adheres to these high standards to protect public health. One of the key backgrounds on good regulation is what WHO defines as good regulatory practices, and these are available as a guideline document in the WHO website, with the main principles being what you can see: legality, it has to be legal, in line with the country's laws and regulations. It has to be impartial. The regulations have to be consistent. They have to be proportionate. There has to be some proportionality such that you don't get huge sanctions for a minor infraction, like not dotting a T or not crossing a T or dotting an I in your dossier documents. It has to be flexible also, because it has to serve public health, and the needs change. It has to adapt with it. It has to be effective, efficient, clear, and transparent. And the importance, broadly, three headlines: it ensures public health is safeguarded. It safeguards patient safety by monitoring drug safety, efficacy, and quality, preventing harmful effects through strict compliance and quality checks. And again, the second one is facilitating innovation, because it helps the manufacturers navigate complex requirements and acts between the science, policy, and the commercial interests of the company, pharmaceutical companies, because all these are interlinked. Again, enabling market access, as Eva has mentioned about dossier, this is usually the first step in getting market access. And it streamlines product registration and lifecycle management, supporting timely patient access to therapies and devices. This is a global regulatory landscape. Eva has given an excellent presentation on the background of this. I won't go into the details. And as you can see, there are various maturity levels. I think right now, as a country, we are working towards attaining level 3. It's quite demanding and involving. What I've just talked about is from the regulator's perspective, because you have to look at this in two aspects. There's both the regulator and then the regulated. Who are the regulated entities? In this case, entities like clinical research organizations, manufacturers, both innovator and R&D and generic manufacturers for APIs, biologicals, finished dosage forms, medical devices. And then there'll be the in-country representatives of the marketing authorization holders, because the manufacturers may not have a presence in every country. So these would be like the scientific offices or the local technical representatives. They're also regulated: importers, distributors, wholesalers, retail outlets, hospital pharmacies. All these constitute the regulatory affairs professionals ecosystem. And in each setup, you'll have different reporting structures for RA professionals. Most of the time, the setup I've seen locally is the RA professional will report to the company pharmacist, because it's a very unique skill set, doing the dossiers and managing the whole regulatory framework. It's a bit different from the rest of the operations, which sometimes the company pharmacists are tasked with. But there'll be situations where you find the company pharmacist also is involved in the day-to-day regulatory affairs. The structure and functions of medical products regulatory systems is just to give, again, a background on why regulatory affairs and the role of the professionals. You can see regulations. There's a hierarchy starting right at the top with laws, coming down, laws like our CAP 244, which govern the practice of pharmacy, And of course, there will be others. Then there'll be regulations, which are usually supplemental to the laws. Then there are guidelines, which our regulator, like in the country, give many guidelines, including GMP guidelines, guidelines on good clinical practices, guidelines on distribution practices, guidelines on submission of the dossier, how you have to go about it. All these are at the bottom of the hierarchy. As you can see, the guidelines are most detailed and most flexible because they are managed at the regulator level. The laws at the top give the least detail, but they're also the least flexible. They are the most prescriptive and most difficult to change. In terms of the regulatory functions, you can see there are technical elements, which involve setting standards, specifications, guidelines, and procedures, and the administrative elements. The functions would involve aspects like product assessment and registration, licensing of premises and persons, inspection of manufacturers and distributors, and post-marketing surveillance. There'll also be QC, quality control, the NQCL level, clinical trials oversight, lot release, control of drug promotion and advertising. In terms of the dossiers evaluation, again, been mentioned, there'll be innovator products, there'll be multi-source generics, there'll be post-market variations to existing marketing authorizations. These are the kind of applications that authorization holders make to regulators. And coming to the role of the regulatory professionals. The first, of course, CTD dossier preparation, and from the regulator point of view, the evaluation of the dossiers for product marketing authorization. All these are based on ICH guidelines and other WHO national guidelines Eva has taken us through. There'll be licensing responsibilities for regulatory professionals. They have to make sure that we get all the licenses for products, facilities, practice. There have to be regular communication between the regulators and the regulated, that's the industry. And then the regulatory professionals are deeply involved in compliance with GXP. These are the good practice guidelines throughout the product lifecycle management. Aspects like good laboratory practices, good clinical practices, manufacturing practices, advertising and promotion guidelines, and the like. And the regulatory professionals, as we've mentioned, take care of the nuts and bolts, core to farm operations. Without them, nothing would move in the operations. And one thing I would like you to think, the philosophy of regulation, a lot of it involved whether as an entity you are asking for permission to do something. This is like when you're applying for dossier registration, or sometimes you find yourself in a situation where you have to ask for forgiveness. You've already done something and that require prior authorization of what has to be done in this case, and there'll be costs and sanctions in such situations. So you have to weigh the balance for this, where compliance again depends on large part on the country's maturity level. Just going back a bit, the regulatory professional, with this in mind, the involvement in continuous monitoring, reporting, change and risk management post-approval. This will be a lot of times in a company setting where they'll spend a lot of their time doing this. Regulatory professionals, again, the three aspects of ensuring patient safety, the aspect of safety, efficacy, and quality. These are key areas where regulatory professionals focus on in their day-to-day work. And as a comment here, each element is interdependent. One can be compromise only at the risk of the others, making holistic regulatory oversight essential. The Kenya Regulatory Authority, regulatory environment, we have the PPB, which is a main player. We have the ESC, we have AMA, the African Medicine Association. Again, Eva has spoken in depth about this. I won't go into details, but we just note again the recent developments which involve things like adopting international standards such as WHO GP for maturity level 3 attainment, ICH guidelines, digitization of services. Most of the regulatory services are available online. You only need to visit the offices face-to-face meeting on a very rare basis. The emphasis on ECTD, this again, it goes hand in hand with the digitization and an enhanced post-market surveillance system and life cycle management protocols. Things like where we are talking of actually the regulator monitoring every batch of product that's in the market and monitoring the quality, complaints, adverse drug reactions. I think we've seen more and more of this as we go along in the recent past. To give a perspective from the regulator and the regulated parties, the regulator's objective mainly is to protect public health through rigorous review and ongoing oversight, with the major challenge being balancing speed and thoroughness, adapting to rapid technological advances. The tool they use mostly will be the WHO good regulatory practices, risk-benefit analysis, and a transparent decision-making process. From an industry perspective, the objective mainly is to achieve market approval and maintain compliance while innovating and supplying products to the patients. The challenges here mainly will be navigating complex dossier requirements, managing timelines, ensuring compliance with evolving regulations. And collaborations are key, which involve engaging with regulators to ensure mutual understanding and smooth product lifecycle transition. As a comment here, regulatory professionals act as ambassadors between the two worlds, translating requirements into actionable insights while also communicating industry realities back to the regulators. This is just an example of how we can work towards ensuring best practices and attaining regulatory performance indicators. Issues like, examples like CTD dossier excellence, where a company successfully gains market access by adopting meticulous, transparency-driven CTD dossier backed by ICH standards. Example 2, best practices, licensing and facility audits, key part of day-to-day regulatory professionals' work. Another area will be post-market surveillance, where you implement enhanced pharmacovigilance systems that reduce adverse events reported by early identification and intervention. In all this, attention to regulatory requirements improve product safety and market trust. In summary, regulatory affairs is central to public health. It requires a harmonized global approach. The regulatory professionals have a dual role, acting as advisors and intermediaries between the regulator and industry, and driving the narrative that excellence in PPD preparation, licensing, compliance, and EMS directly links to safety, efficacy, and quality, and continuous improvement, ensuring that regulatory systems continuously embrace WHO good regulatory practices. The regulatory professionals ensure every step from discovery to product withdrawal at the end of the life cycle, ensuring that patient safety and product quality remain paramount. So, as a final thought, regulatory affairs are the backbone of safe, effective, and innovative pharmaceutical and medical device industry. It's a dynamic field that balances scientific rigor with regulatory prudence. Emphasis should be placed on continuous learning and engagement with both regulatory bodies and industry best practices. And as professionals, you should consider your unique role in enhancing patient safety and product excellence. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doc. That was so detailed and amazing. Huh?
Yeah.
As a pharmacologist, I'm seeing there are even many new things for me, and I'm really glad to be an upcoming a very good student. And it's very interesting. And when you talk of from drug discovery, I said I'm the guy at the side of drug discovery, but there is a big of regulatory affairs that goes on. Thank you very much, Doc, for that. Before I invite Dr. Bina to take us through the career pathways in this space, allow me, colleagues, to take you through a few minutes to bring a context of why we are here and what we are planning to really improve this knowledge and skill of pharmacists with regard to regulatory affairs. Am I audible? Are we together?
Yes, Prof.
Yes.
Okay, good. So, for a few months, we've been interrogating and deeply discussing with the whole team. I think we have a team of like near to 10 facilitators. You'll meet them as we move on today and also the next week. So, this global regulatory affairs short course training basically has 3 phases. The first phase is where we focus on the theoretical aspect in the knowledge aspect, because we all believe structured learning is very important. Learning is beyond a webinar. To be an expert, someone needs to sit and learn from the expert. That is why all the speakers you will see and all our facilitators, they have a master's degree and above. They have worked for more than a decade on this space. So it's very important to sit, to comprehend, and really dig deep into the basics. You can see the detail of the modules from our website, and I'll just quickly try to display that just to encourage you to go through it. So we have a total of 13 modules. Some of the modules include like the basic introduction to drug regulatory affairs, the global regulatory affairs and harmonization, what it entails on dossier preparation and regulatory submissions, pharmaceutical inspection, GMP, and where earlier those colleagues of ours in pharmaceutical industry are. Can we mute, please? Sorry, okay. API and finished products regulatory affairs, with regard to clinical research, bioequivalence, and pharmacovigilance. We have a dedicated module on just a minute. Dedicated module on PMS, biologicals. I don't know if we have Dr. Matu here. We have also regulatory affairs for vet products, nutraceuticals, medical device. I've seen Dr. Maureen. Maybe she'll say hi later on. Ethics, leadership, and career pathways. So there is a highly packed training of 13 modules. And we plan to cover them in 10 weeks, but we'll have sessions every Tuesday and Thursday from 6:30 to 8:30. So that is twice per week, because some of the modules are very heavy in terms of content, in terms of the rigor they are in. So we might need more than one session for most of the modules. That's why for the next 10 weeks of the training will be almost most of the modules will be 2 sessions. So we'll use maybe Tuesday and Thursday for learning, or Tuesday for learning and Thursday to do exercise for question and answers. Not only that, if you have really seen what I shared earlier, it's not only a one-way communication. We also believe on self-paced learning. So we'll be providing a number of articles, a number of things to be read. So using our learning management system, participants will have the opportunity to have a self-paced learning. So we expect a minimum of like 20 hours of self-paced learning in the whole training. What makes this training of unique for me, especially, and as a real believer and as someone in academia for like some time, someone cannot be competent only by theory. You see, you can be told what is in a dossier, but it's be very difficult to prepare a whole dossier. So we are so grateful for our partners, like Eva Consultancy, Lab and Allied, and other pharmaceutical industries who are willing to provide experiential hands-on learning. So in the middle of this theoretical session, basically after we are done the first 5-6 modules, participants will be assigned to a hands-on training in the regulatory environment for minimum of 10 days. And in a day, we expect an engagement of minimum of between 3 to 4 hours of engagement. So that they can be exposed, they know what is happening, so that for sure will create a lot of experience. I will believe later on after Dr. Bina's presentation, Dr. Eva and Dr. Simon will say a word on what that really practical training would look like. And next week, again, I'll invite Dr. Nelson, who will also tell us, we're also Dawa Pharmaceuticals, how that hands-on practice will be in his space. The phase 3 is where we expect participants will do their project, because at the time where they reach around module 5, they will be given, by the time they are assigned to the practical or experiential practice sides, they will be given an assignment or a project, which will be communicated once we launch the training. Then at the end of the training is where now they will dedicate time for them to make a project presentation. So you'll be able to see later on what the whole training outcome is. But later on, I would like to ask those seniors in this space to tell us, what do you really expect a pharmacy professional or a participant from this training to do? Well, how do you see how do you need to see the output? I just need to throw this question so that maybe later on in one word or two, you can tell us this is a kind of expert you need to see at the end of undergoing this whole training. So, but academically, you can see this whole list. This is a whole training modality. We expect an engagement of more than 100 hours in 10 weeks' time, including theory and also practice. So I would love to welcome each one of you to plan, to purpose, and to join this innovative training program that will really make an impact in this regulatory space. I would love to be a student. I will be a student on this one, not only moderator. I'll be a good student in this training. I need to learn from all the seniors. Yes, so I'm asking who will be a good colleague of mine in this classroom. So for those of you who think people's learning stops after PhD, no. When you have your PhD is where you start learning. That is where I believe. At this point, allow me to invite Dr. Bina now to tell us what are the career pathways in regulatory affairs. Doctor, you introduce yourself, Dr. Bina, a senior pharmacist, and the company let her introduce. I'm not good. I'm good when I teach pharmacology. You go on.
Okay. Professor, you can hear me?
Yeah, very well. Yes.
Just confirming. So, good evening, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank everyone for taking their time to be part of this webinar as we introduce a very exciting course. My name is Dr. Bina Mahida. I'm the Regulatory Affairs Manager at Cosmos Limited, also the company pharmacist. I joined Cosmos in 2017, where I served as a company pharmacist for 4 years. And after that, in 2021, I joined the Regulatory Affairs Department, and I've been there ever since. And it's been nothing other than exciting. And that is why I'm actually very excited to be part of this course and also being part of the facilitators. So for that, I would like to thank Dr. Mia for giving me this opportunity. So I'll just quickly share my screen. Please let me know if you can see it. Can you see it?
It's coming, not yet. Yes, we can see it, Doc.
Okay. So I don't have many slides, but I've just tried to put together what I feel would be very relevant for this course, and also for the people who just want to understand what careers they're looking at in terms of regulatory affairs, and not just the legacy where it's been known that regulatory affairs is just a dossier compilation role, but there is so much to it. And I will be taking you through all that. And I will also be including experiences from what I have learned in my 4 years of being in regulatory affairs space, and also what the senior people who have been in regulatory affairs have actually, done through their whole career. So I thought I could also take the people through climbing the ladder. And this is different because different companies will have different structural, like the local industry might have a different structure, multinationals might have a different structure. But I feel somehow, somewhere we do meet. We might just be given different titles, but at the end of the day, it somehow comes to these roles. So the first is a regulatory affairs specialist or an associate. So usually this is an entry level position into regulatory affairs. When you just start your role in regulatory affairs, this is when you learn how to compile a dossier. You learn which modules are there in a dossier, what you're expected to give in each module. And this is also where you learn how these documents are usually prepared and which department provides them. And it is usually also good to learn how the documents are usually prepared. For example,
Doc, slides are moving. Sorry.
really,
Yeah, maybe you can try to put it full screen. We are on the
it's
first.
actually,
Yeah, now it's
can you
moving.
see it now?
Yes.
So can I leave it like this? Because when I go to full screen, I think there's a disturbance.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah. This is okay. This is visible. That's fine.
Can I leave it like this?
Yeah, that is okay.
Yes. So this is where what usually we prefer is as much as the regulatory affairs associate is making the dossiers, it's not just a task of you receiving documents from different departments and compiling it. You should also know how those documentations are prepared. You need to know what are the available international guidelines, which are usually used, which are referenced. And the reason I'm saying that is this is usually better because when you're now giving a dossier, you're giving a good document, you're giving up-to-date document, and this usually helps to reduce the number of queries in future. And also sometimes if you know you don't have certain documents or maybe they're not as per requirements, even though queries do come, you already know where you went wrong, and it helps you to plan and prepare for your queries. And in this case, it helps you also reduce your registration timeline. Now after the associate has gained some experience, you get promoted to being a manager. And here now you're actually overseeing regulatory activities. You have a team that you're managing. You also help to develop strategies depending on which country you're in. You will actually be helping your head or your lead to understand what kind of regulators you have, what works with each regulatory authority, what is accepted, what is not accepted, how to plan to get your products quickly registered into different countries. So you can only reach this level once you've understood everything about those years. You know your the requirements per regulator. What are the differences between each country regulatory authority? So you don't sometimes over give documents or under give documents. After that, we also have the global regulatory affairs lead, or you can have a regional regulatory lead. Like for example, if you have somebody handling the East Africa or the West Africa or the Sub-Saharan region. So in this case, This is now somebody who's understood the regions, and they can actually help make more advanced regulatory strategies. They also can negotiate with regulators and the health authorities, maybe even outside the continent. And after that, we also have the Regulatory Affairs Director or a Vice President, and this one usually is a much higher level. So these are people who actually give very strategic leadership and direction. Usually, this is when it's a global company and they have branches in many countries as well as many continents in the world. In addition to this, we'll also be looking at what is required and what kind of skill set is required for each of these roles, just to prepare everybody. And depending on which role you're in right now, or if you're just at the entry level, what you need to do, what you need to have, what kind of skills you need to have just to, fit into these roles. We have different sectors in the regulatory affairs. Some of them might be new. So when you look at the pharmaceutical industry, we have both the human pharmaceuticals as well as the veterinary industry, which is also pharmaceutical. We have industries like in Kenya who do both human and vet in the same pharmaceutical industry, and some of the requirements are usually the same, like the CTD format. But of course, the documents and the data in the documents are usually different because of the human and animal. And there's usually a perception where a lot of the people are inclined towards joining the human area, but also veterinary is equally, exciting. And it's also a space where a lot of the pharmacists, a lot of the scientists can decide to join because the regulations and the aim is always the same. We also have cosmetics, which is new. What I always feel that these days there's a lot of concerns of carcinogenic impurities. Um, some of the cosmetics in the market usually are very toxic because, of course, the topical applications. So usually I feel maybe this is also an industry that pharmacists can explore into, just making sure that at the end of the day, what is usually supplied is safe for everybody, not only for the medicines. Nutraceuticals is also another area. The regulations are also different, the requirements are different, and it is also an area that pharmacists can look into because we do have a lot of nutraceuticals in the country. It's good to know how they're regulated. It's good to be there when these products are being introduced into the country. So that again, we want to make sure that whatever nutraceuticals are available in the country are actually safe for patients to use. Medical devices is another very new area. It is still developing, but there is a lot which is currently happening around medical devices. A lot of guidelines are being developed. We even have a whole association, MEDAC, for medical devices. So there is really a lot. It's an area that I feel pharmacists and also others interested in regulatory affairs can actually explore. We have the vet industry. So the vet industry does not only have the pharmaceuticals, they also have a lot of other areas under the veterinary area, which also can be tapped by pharmacists. I know it's usually a space where they have their own professionals, but it's also an area where regulatory affairs exist. I just picked this because I wanted to show how important regulatory affairs is in any manufacturing company. We are actually the center of everything because this is a department that regulates what is registered, it regulates, and it makes sure that what is registered is actually maintained. And even if there are changes, there are changes which are informed to regulators, changes which are allowed and approved by regulators. And we also are the people who actually direct these departments on what they have to do as per the guidelines. Research and development, usually not many pharmacists have gone through this department, but it is a department that is currently very fast growing. There is a lot of things that has to be done here. And right now there is also the concept of quality by design, where they say quality does not start after commercialization. Quality actually starts during the research and development when it is first time you're developing that product. Now in Kenya, because we're looking at generics, we're actually looking at formulation and development. And as much as we are trying to make the product similar to the innovator, there is a lot that we also have to do on our side. Because the innovator information available is usually not enough. A lot of the things we have to do ourselves. And I can give an example. For example, when you're developing methods, a lot of the products which are newly developed right now are really not in the pharmacopoeia. In this case, you have to develop your own method. That is your assay method, your dissolution, your related substances methods. A lot of them have to be developed in-house. And when they have to be developed in-house, of course, you need somebody in research and development who understands how to develop methods and is able to validate these methods before they're actually transferred to the quality control department. Another area is whether if you're looking at a product, you also have to make sure that it is a product that is not of concern for example, if you're doing human and vet, usually there's a concern whether the drugs you are introducing are safe for humans. So there's a lot of toxicological studies you have to do. You have to identify whether they're potent molecules as well, because we have substandards against potent molecules. You know, the products which are less than 5 milligrams have to be really controlled. When you go into production, of course, they will have to follow what has been implemented and what has been registered. Again, they have to be really aware that they cannot make changes in production without informing the regulatory department. And regulatory affairs department will get to know once a change control or something has officially been logged in by the QA department. And therefore, as such, production is not usually expected to change anything on their own unless an approval is received. When you look at quality control, right now we have so many guidelines, we have so many requirements coming up. It is actually the regulatory affairs department that keeps quality control in check. And normally what I feel that for a regulatory affairs or anybody in the regulatory affairs space, we cannot register a product unless you have a very strong QC, because 3/4 of your documents are actually from the quality control area. For example, your method validations, your comparative dissolutions, your specifications, are they as per guidelines or not? Are you releasing a product as per guidelines? Dr. Nelson also mentioned data integrity is a very important aspect in quality control, because that's the end place where your product is being analyzed, and it's actually the result of QC that will tell you whether your product was made as per the procedures laid down or not. It comes down to QA. Based on the current guidelines, you will actually ask quality assurance to make changes. If there is any changes in terms of process validations, if there is any requirement. So usually there's a lot of consultation between regulatory affairs and quality assurance. Packaging. Normally in some countries, in some companies, this can be a separate area, or it can be under regulatory affairs, or even sometimes I've seen it being under quality assurance. But nevertheless, it's an area which is a very critical area. And why they liaise with regulatory affairs normally, because they have to make packaging which is aligning with regulatory requirements. Normally, regulatory affairs is a very critical department when it comes to labeling, because we have to make sure that what we're releasing, what we're making, the artworks are actually in compliance with different regulatory requirements, and maybe not only one country, but everywhere that the product is registered. These are some of the new areas which over the years have actually become very important. I will just touch on them. One is bioequivalent studies. So normally, as of now, BE studies are not yet being conducted in Kenya or anywhere in East Africa, but we try to get them done from CROs outside. Now, why it's important for the regulatory affairs person to understand is, we are actually contracting an organization to do these studies for us. We have to know what our guidelines are, or whichever country you're registering, what the guidelines are. What do they say about the BE study? What protocols are there? Is it complying? Because again, you don't want to do a BE study and then have to do it all over again. How to fill a BCIF form, what requirements are there? Of course, the RA professional has to know this, because we can't just accept study reports which are given to us. We also have to go through them and make sure that what was done was actually correct and as per guidelines. Requirements of the study. Also, we realize that many countries who actually ask how you selected the number of patients, whether you did the study in a fasting state, in a fed state, depending on the kind of products you have. So So all these things, regulatory affairs professional is supposed to know because it is product by product. When it comes to pharmacovigilance, we have, okay, can you just give me a few minutes?
Yeah, that is okay. That is okay, Doc. Thank you. Yeah, that is very, very interesting with regard to career pathway. Sorry, Doc. As a transition, allow me to invite among the different facilitators we have in this training. We are just trying to give snapshot of what the training would look like and also the team. I believe you are seeing how we have raised the bar of a training, how this training is meticulously prepared. Allow me to invite Dr. Maureen from the Pharmacy and Poison Board in Medical Device Department. I know Dr. Bina was talking about medical device. Dr. Maureen, are you there?
Professor,
Huh? Oh, you're
let me
back?
continue.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, hold on there.
Sorry.
I was inviting Dr. Maureen, medical device. If not now, let me also say hi to maybe as the middle. Let's invite Dr. Matu. Dr.
Hi.
Maureen Matu is the veterinary regulatory pharmacist in, hey, Doc, you better say that word. Is it in Boringa? You know, I'm not good on those names, but I'm now a good student. I'm learning here. We have worked together with Dr. Matu in a number of avenues. She's currently on top of her role as a regulatory pharmacist in BI. She's also a member of PTTC, the Pharmacy Practice Committee of the board. And we do work a lot of things with her. Dr. Maureen, you can say hi to the group and maybe you can say a word because in earlier slide, Dr. Bina was talking about one of the career pathway for pharmacists in this space is veterinary, nutraceuticals, and also herbal products. I know you'll be taking us through that module in this training, but you can say hi to the crowd and you can say a word or two.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Dr. Maureen Matu. I handle mostly veterinary regulatory affairs, and I also sit in the Pharmacy Practice Technical Committee. It's a pleasure to meet you all. Glad to be facilitating and giving a little bit more information about how to handle the veterinary regulatory space, supplements, and nutraceuticals. So I'm sorry I missed most of it. I was having some issues connecting with my Zoom. So I think that's the little I can say right now.
Thank you. That is okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for the invite.
Okay, thank you, Doc. Next week, since we'll have also a session, you can get a few minutes to say more on that area.
Yeah.
Let me take you back to Dr. Bina. Doctor, you can continue. Dr. Bina?
Can you see the slide?
Yes, yes.
Okay, sorry for that. Okay, so I was in bioequivalence, and then there is pharmacovigilance, which is not really fairly new. It's been there now for a while, so it's something also that an RA pharmacist can also look at, where you have to understand your local requirements. You have to understand the external country requirements because every country will have its own unique requirements, which might not be very similar to what the Kenyan requirements are. So usually it's very good to know what other countries are also doing. And development of a risk management plan, for example, we have available online, but then you have to now domesticate it to what is required for local, that is the Kenyan population. Development of aggregate reports. This is also very important that RA pharmacists as well as the PV pharmacists have to start learning because it's becoming a requirement in many countries actually in Africa. Clinical studies is also an area which I feel people need to look at because it is coming. We are not really relying a lot on the clinical studies done outside the continent because they're not really a true indication of the drugs and pharmacogenomics of the African continent. Then we have the regulatory compliance. So sometimes what happens in many companies, they can just have a separate person who handles regulatory compliance. So this is a person who may handle product complaints, a person who handles the recalls. We have good distribution practices, which is also becoming a very important area for manufacturers. We also have different regulations like from NEMA, Extended Producer Responsibility, which is also becoming a mandatory requirement for industry. So these are just some of the new areas that pharmacies can actually explore and see how they can fit into this area other than the normal, regulatory affairs space of those requirements. We also have regulatory intelligence. So here what happens is this is a person who actually looks at the trends in RA in different countries. They can help also in the strategic decision-making process. They can give advice. They also are just informing the company on what is new, what is happening outside there. And usually a lot of these facts that they get can help really in, can really be helpful for industries, to make decisions, to plan, and help just to make sure that everything goes smoothly and okay. We also have recently there's been a lot of impurities of concern, which I feel regulatory affairs professionals should know about them, because some of the countries it's actually becoming mandatory for you to control these impurities, and normally this actually will come through a regulatory affairs person, because they are actually regulatory requirements, and it is the regulatory affairs person who will actually be advising the rest of the company on what is required and what has to be done. So for example, the diethylene glycol and ethylene glycol contamination, which happen mostly in the syrups. So after the issue that happened in many of the African countries, it actually became a mandatory requirement in Kenya, as well as even I know of Tanzania. And if you have any product which could have anything that is having diethylene glycol or ethylene glycol or polyethylene glycol and any other risk components, you're actually expected to make sure that you're testing for them. And when you're testing for them, you're expected to make sure it is within limit, at least on the lower side. And in case it is higher, then you may actually have to do a reformulation or relook at where these impurities are coming from. We also have nitrosamine impurities. It is still new because people are still not aware of this, but currently there's a lot happening. Initially, it was only for the ARBs, that is the losartan, potassium, the telmisartans, valsartans. These are the products which are currently being scrutinized for nitrosamine impurities. However, currently the WHO list has actually increased and become quite long on where we need to control the impurities. The only challenge we have right now is actually that some products we don't really have a method of testing, and we have to actually rely on our API manufacturers, because normally that is where the highest contamination is. So if your API manufacturers declare that their product is free from nitrosamine impurities or it is actually controlled, then as a manufacturer you have to make sure that you control it from your side, and there is no way you're introducing these impurities. But I also know that you is working on HPLC methods. And I know that once the HPLC methods are developed and they're available in the pharmacopoeia, actually it will become a mandatory requirement to test for these impurities, just to make sure that your products have it controlled, either not detected or within limits. We also have residual solvents, which are many companies were not doing, and currently it's becoming mandatory as long as you have a risk of having some of these residual solvents. Normally they do come from excipients as well as the APIs. So it's also an area that you need to look into. We also have elemental impurities. These are actually trace metals, trace elements, which from the way or the route of synthesis of API manufacturers, they find their way into the raw materials, and then they find their way into the finished product. So of course, they're trace elements. So as long as they're within limits, it is okay. But of course, you have to make sure that yes, your product is not introducing, or your manufacturing process is not in any way introducing any of these impurities. So these are just some of the areas we will be looking at. I will be explaining all of them in detail. This is just a snapshot of what we'll be diving into. So I look forward to having some of you or many of you joining the course. And yeah, if you guys have anything that you need or you request to be added to all of these, then you're more than welcome. I'll be waiting for comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Doc. That was amazing. And I was reading across all the possible careers, and it's really amazing. And it's one of a booming practice area for pharmacy professionals. Basically, for this training, we have a broader scope: practitioners, pharmacy practitioners, biomedical engineers, chemists, or those who aspire for having a biological science degree and who aspire to work in this space. They are heavily welcome to join this training. Next week, we'll give more update on what this training is all about. However, I need just to stress one point, and on that is one of our training philosophy. Earlier, when I talk of the modules of the training, keep in mind these are not like cast in stone. And in many of our training modules, we have really changed and expanded our training modules after we heard from participants. For example, you see, for someone to understand about, for module 5, if you take, for example, finished pharmaceutical product, active pharmaceutical ingredients, before understanding the regulatory aspect, because the modules goes through the product cycle, that is, the flow is like that. So it's very important for someone to understand product development, the formulation science. That is very important. So some of our facilitators are also suggesting that we look at the participants, and maybe we might need extra modules for those who don't have the clue, don't have the basic knowledge on what it entails for product development, the different formulations. Imagine, for example, module 6, a clinical trial, clinical study, the one Dr. Bina was talking about. So we are not really to finish the modules, but we are really to ensure competency, competency, the integration of knowledge, skill, and behavior. So this knowledge, it should be structured, it should have a good foundation. That is where you will know it. The skill, you'll get it whenever you go and practice. So the attitude comes in with all that blend. Finally, I'll throw that earlier question. I believe I'm communicating to maybe Dr. Eva, if you are there. And maybe Dr. Simon can also share the same. What type of trainers do you expect if someone engaged in this training? At the end of the training, what a product do you expect? What do you expect the participants to do after undergoing this training? Maybe in one word, Dr. Eva, are you there? Or Dr. Simon? One of you can take over. Just in one word, what is your expectation? If someone finishes this training, what do you wish to see them performing in this space where you are expert at? Even Dr. Bina, in one word. Yeah. Dr. Simon.
I think from me and the experience I've had in industry, what is coming out and what we all know is regulatory is quite interdisciplinary. It integrates all the aspects of the laws and regulations of the country and the regulator, the good manufacturing practices, the actual what goes on at the manufacturing area, good distribution practices, quality control, and what we expect will be an all-rounded person who is able to have a view of an integrative view of all these aspects of pharmaceutical operations, so that once they get now, it's a very hands-on kind of field, so that when you're compiling the dossiers, submitting applications for other kinds of registrations, it's clear to you and what are the possible hurdles that you're likely to face. How do you resolve this in a fast manner? Because again, like we say, timelines are critical in this area. You don't want to submit a dossier and you're hit with 100 queries, which will take another maybe 6 months to resolve. So once you get a professional with an all-rounded view of all these aspects of operations, you'll be able to effectively close out all this and integrate the whole picture for effective to contribute to effective operations of where you're contributing.
Thank you.
I think that's the expectation.
Thank you. Exactly. All-rounded expert from various aspects. Thank you, Dr. D, for that. Any final point? Maybe I have not seen Dr. Eva. Dr. Bina, anything you need to add? What participants or graduates do you need to see at the end of this training?
Okay, what I think they will be expecting, or what I feel should actually happen, anyone who enrolls for this course will actually get a 360-degree view of what exactly regulatory affairs is in all its entirety, rather than just the perception that people have of what regulatory affairs is. This will actually open their eyes into what is actually available and what they can tap into. Yeah.
Thank you. Very well explained, very well taught, and I will not add anything to that. So I'll invite questions. Basically, this training is open, as I said, to pharmacy professionals, medical doctors, health practitioners, including those who work at medical devices, medical supplies, including biomedical engineers and lab technologists. So feel free to share this information to your colleagues. If you have any question, we are happy to answer it in the chat. I've not seen any question. For those who need to request for the CPD, I've indicated the title. We can get it on the portal. We'll give more details. Next week, we have also a presentation where you will meet other facilitators like, let me not mention their names now, but amazing facilitators. Also, they will talk about the clinical trials, post-market surveillance. The one I talked earlier about, the active pharmaceutical ingredients, the finished products. So we have I'm so proud and happy that we have a very good skill set, which comes from the basic philosophy of our philosophy, my philosophy on how training should be packaged. Unfortunately, we don't have sponsorship. I'm seeing that question, but we are really looking actively to grants to support at least a number of young pharmacists, young professionals to join freely to this training. We are really applying to many big grants, but when we are successful, that is where we'll make a communication. International participants are also welcome to join from any part of the world this training. They can do the online training, and for the hands-on, as any participant locally here will also do the needful facilitation. You can feel free to reach out to us. Thanks that I don't see any question. You are so welcome, and I need to thank all our speakers, Dr. Eva Maina, Dr. Simon Mungai, Dr. Bina Mahita, Dr. Maureen Matu, I believe also Dr. Nelson Odhiambo from Dawa Pharmaceuticals.
Yes. Hello?
Thank you. I'm saying thank you, Dr. Matu, for joining. And all the others, I believe. We have also Dr. Maureen, who joined
Yeah,
us.
thank you.
From the Pharmacy and Poisons Board Medical Device Directorate. Next week, she will say a word. Dr. Edward Bao. I've not seen him, but next week he will join Dr. Tom, many others. So we'll share the experience. And yeah, and all the others, 150 plus participants who joined us, who listened us today. We are so grateful. We don't take it for granted. Your participation was amazing. Feel free to just join this amazing training program of 10 weeks plus. 10 weeks is the minimum, but the way I see it, the training might go above that. Online twice per week session, plus a minimum of 10 days hands-on practical, followed by project presentation, facilitated by very seasoned professionals in that space with a minimum of master's degree and above and decades of practice. Yeah. And at the end of basically our training will start with a pre-test and also a post-test. That is, I hope, very common and most of you have seen that. And at the end of the training, for all successful participants, will also give a recognized certificate. Thank you all for joining. We'll meet also next week for the same webinar, the second webinar. So where we'll talk on other aspects, including the global regulatory practice, pharmacovigilance, and post-marketing surveillance, and also on how to build successful career in regulatory affairs, including active pharmaceutical ingredients, pharmaceutical finished products, and clinical research, and also the new things in this space like veterinary, pharmacy regulation, nutraceuticals, biologicals, and we'll talk all the others. Thanks, that. I thank you, and we'll close the meeting. And I wish you all a blessed evening. Thank you very much. If any question, but feel free before we close, you can unmute and ask. I was looking for the chat, looking for any question, but till now I have not seen. But if any question, feel free to unmute and ask, and we are happy to respond.
Oh, yes. Dr. Paulina sent her apologies
Oh,
for not
Dr.
being
Maureen.
able to
Yes,
join you
yes,
today,
okay.
but she has promised to be joining you.
Thank you, Dr. Maureen. Thank you, Dr. Pauline. Maybe Maureen, you can say hi. That is what I was mentioning you earlier from the board. Can you hear me, Maureen? Maureen, are you there?
Dr. Elmias,
Yes,
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I'm not sure which Maureen you're addressing to, because now I feel like I think we are two.
I'm addressing you, Maureen Giro.
Okay.
Yeah. You say Dr. Pauline has sent her apologies at Dr. Pauline. That is why I just say I'm inviting you to say a word, maybe on behalf of the pharmacy board and what you do in that medical device space. And you can say one or two things. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. My name is Maureen Giro. I am an assistant regulatory officer at Pharmacy and Poisons Board. We are under the Health Products and Technologies Directorate, Product Evaluation and Registration Department, and to be specific, Medical Device Registration Division. I also engage in blood and blood products registration. So I'll be so interested when it comes to the biologics training. I'm not going to speak so much about on behalf of the board, but on behalf of Medical Device Department, we are grateful for engaging us in this conversation and in this training. We look forward to engaging more. Also on behalf of Dr. Pauline, who is not able to join us due to other competing tasks, I send her apologies. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Maureen, for that, and thank you for joining. We are so grateful that we have a team of experts from the regulator too. Okay. Any question, colleagues? Any concern you have? Feel free. We can stay a few minutes to answer any question. But I personally encourage you to register to join this training, and I guarantee you, you'll really benefit the most. Yeah. Okay, if no question, I wish you all good night and see you all next week for additional and a broad informative session next week, Friday at 6:30 p.m. Same time. Thank you. Wish you good night.